Welcome to this meeting of the Royal Society for Asian Affairs. As the papal conclave begins the process of electing a new pontiff in the Vatican today, the Catholic Church stands at a crossroads following the death of Pope Francis. Known for his radical approach to reforming the Church, and particularly his efforts to shift the focus of the Church toward the global South, the late Pope engaged with regions and populations previously overlooked by the Holy See. Last year, he toured Asia, highlighting the importance of the region and its estimated 150 million Catholics to the Church. But as the College of Cardinals, 23 of which are from Asia, cast their ballots to select the next Pope, will Francis's legacy and efforts of engagement with Asia continue, or will they be replaced by other priorities? What could this mean for Asian Catholics and Vatican-Asia relations? And in an increasingly unstable and unhopeful world, how does the Church remain relevant and utilize its influence to shape policy, engage with atheist states, and manage interreligious relations across Asia? To help us answer some of those questions, we are fortunate to have Victor Gaetan with us today. Victor is an award-winning journalist who has covered the Vatican and its diplomacy across 4 continents over the past 2 decades. He is the senior international correspondent for the National Catholic Register and is the author of God's Diplomats, in which he examines the diplomacy of Pope Francis, the diplomatic capabilities of the Holy See, and its involvement in international relations and diplomatic crises around the world. As ever, we'll have time following Victor's talk for questions, so please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen if you'd like to ask something. But otherwise, I'd like to welcome Victor and hand over to you.
Hello to everyone, and thank you so much, Charlie Potluck, for this invitation and for organizing this event. I am especially humbled before the depth of knowledge of the members of the society. To me, this day is doubly emotional because of the many years I have followed the pontificate of Pope Francis. To talk about him in the past, it is a bittersweet experience. I have organized my presentation in 4 points. Pope Francis's diplomacy vis-à-vis Asia, Church in China predating Francis, the conclave in Asia, and a few trends I have witnessed myself in Asia in recent years. I will like to, as an introduction, to point to the image on the screen on the upper right. This is an extraordinary basilica in on the island of Manila. It is a grand, fascinating basilica. Why am I mentioning this basilica? Because this is, in fact, not the largest. It was the largest Catholic cathedral in Southeast Asia was in Nagasaki. And that church, that cathedral, was bombed directly in 1945 by the second atomic bomb that was dropped on Japan. It is an incredible experience to visit that site in Nagasaki, and to also, if one has some time, to wander around for a few hours. The intensity of the pilgrimages, the people that come to learn about it, to pay their respects to the martyrs. It's very impressive. Most of the people come from South Korea. It is interesting to see that South Korean Catholics come to Nagasaki, and implicitly there is a reconciliation process that is happening in this process. This was possible because of the great relationship between the bishops of the 2 countries. The work that the bishops are engaged in Asia, it's an exemplary factor. I haven't seen so much unity among bishops on one continent as what I have experienced in Asia, for instance. I would move to the importance of the double role that the Pope has. He is as chief of state, and he's also the leader of the largest religion on a planet. And this double role allows the Catholic Church allows the Pope to engage with statesmen as well as to talk directly to his flock wherever they are. And this is the pontificate. This has been the pontificate of Pope Francis. In this image, I will refer to the attention that Pope Francis paid to the Buddhist faith in Asia. On the upper right, we have an expression of the relationship that Pope Francis established with Myanmar. First, a very difficult country because of the political the regime's policies in Myanmar. So Francis, in order to address the discrimination, the repression of a minority group, the Rohingya group, he first established diplomatic relations with the leadership of Myanmar, appointed a cardinal, and then visited the country. What he didn't do was to attack the regime, to reproach the regime, the persecution that was ongoing against the minority Rohingya. And then he moved on to Bangladesh, where most of these refugees, the Rohingya refugees, have taken shelter. And by the same tactics, first established diplomatic relations with Bangladesh, appointed a cardinal, and visited the country. And there he addressed directly the over 1 million, it appears, Rohingya refugees. On the next, I will move to the diplomacy of encounter, which is the threat of Pope Francis's pontificate. He believes in the first person meetings, and that is then elevated to country dialogue and encounter. In this image, he receives leaders of the Buddhist communities from Thailand, a country he's visited. And Thailand is a overwhelming majority Buddhist country. Next, he went on to another majority Buddhist country, to Sri Lanka, where again there were issues of discrimination, religious discrimination from the majority communities, Buddhist community in Sri Lanka. In this image, I would go a bit into the history, the relationship of the Holy See with China. We know that Francis, since childhood, had a desire, love for Asia. As a young Jesuit, he asked his superiors to allow him to go as a missionary to Japan, but he was not allowed because of his health, issues of health. The engagement of the Catholic Church in China begins with a Jesuit, Matteo Ricci, a figure that persisted in Pope Francis and in general in the Jesuit understanding of the missionary work. Matteo Ricci is an essential, a predominant figure. How did Matteo Ricci go about, and what do Jesuits and Christians in general learn from Matteo Ricci's missionary work in China? Matteo Ricci totally enculturated himself in the Chinese culture. He learned the language. He wore the Chinese garb, and he was necessary. He was relatively quickly perceived as an individual who can help the Chinese then needs in terms of his skills and knowledge in geography, in astronomy, in mathematics. So Matteo Ricci was the first foreign to be allowed to visit the sites, the prohibited sites that were until then. When he died, Matteo Ricci was given the extraordinary reverence to be allowed to be buried in Beijing. His tomb is still there. It has been well taken care of by the Chinese authorities. I have visited last year. On the upper right image, this is an image which represents the event of the martyrs that that Pope John Paul II has commemorated in 120 martyrs. Among them, many lay people. Well, things were going on well for a while during John Paul II's pontificate. Until this event, what happened was not the fact that these martyrs have been celebrated in 2000, but it was the date that John Paul II perhaps misled, has chosen to select, and that date was perceived by the Chinese government as offensive because it was one of the national Chinese holidays. I would like to talk a bit about John Paul II's interest in China, of course, from the Catholic perspective. When John Paul II came to office, one of the first things he did was to try to understand what was going on in China. What was the reality between the official church and what was the state of what was called the underground church. So he sent different missionaries from Belgium, from the United States, and they were reported back to him. He continuously ask them, try to talk to the official church and to the government officials. We understand what the underground church is, but we have to talk to the government officials. This is John Paul II, the Pope who came from communist Poland. he is remembered as the man who, quote unquote, finished communism. Well, vis-a-vis China, he had a very different attitude. He was he never criticized for instance, the Chinese authorities, and he worked intensely throughout his pontificate to establish that relationship, official relationship between the Holy See and Beijing. He didn't succeed. He mostly because of his reputation of coming from a communist country and the activities that were spins, I would say, as the Pope who finished, who works to finish communism. His successor, the conservative German Pope Benedict XVI, continued the work in China. For the first few years, he was a very flexible. He ended up with a proclamation which prohibited the bishops, the underground bishops, to ordain priests. That was an enormous change from the policy of ordaining bishops and ordaining priests by underground bishops. The relationship under Benedict XVI went through a serious crisis by 2007, and the team that ran that policy was removed, and not much happened until Pope Francis steps in. As we remember, Pope Francis came with this background of curiosity and love for Asia in general. The second day he was in office, it happened that President Xi Jinping also comes into office. So Pope Francis sent him a very cordial letter, and to everybody's surprise, within a day or two, he received a very cordial response. This was perceived by Francis himself as a sign. From there, he recreated the team that has worked for years in the Vatican-China relationship, beginning with the appointment of Cardinal Parolin as Secretary of State. He brought Parolin back from semi-exile in Venezuela and recreated the team, and they did go to work. It took about 4 years to come to sign the provisional agreement in 2018, which establishes, although the document is not, it's still secret. We understand from the things that have unfolded that this document, for the first time in the relationship in this during the decades of attempting to establish clear rules that in the appointment of bishops, that the bishops in China will have to be appointed by the Pope in partnership with the Chinese government. So the details of this agreement, although not known, they led to the joint appointment of bishops. Since 2019, there are about 11 such bishops that have been jointly appointed, with some exceptions that maybe we will go over in the Q&A session. The next thing that I would like to mention in the Holy See China relationship is that what Pope Francis did and succeeded in doing, it's not him who takes credit for it, and nor his immediate assistants, the respective team. The initiative was taken by Pope Benedict XV through an encyclical that he published in 1919. Benedict XV was the Pope who, throughout the First World War, attempted to bring the powers at war to dialogue, to negotiations. And during the Versailles Treaty, he learned a very hard lesson that an unjust treaty would lead to the next conflict, which unfortunately happened. So Benedict XV, in his encyclical in 1919, established the principle of synodality. The first synod was that took place in Shanghai in 1924, where by which this method, called the Constantini method, Constantini being the papal envoy who implemented the teachings of the encyclical, the Constantine method establishes a fascinating principle, which is that the Vatican will no longer send foreign bishops to China. They will have to be local bishops. By doing this, the missionaries who were perceived for good reasons of being the envoys of the colonial power, that from there on, from 1924, the appointment of bishops and the missionaries that were sent to China are no longer foreign. This process, the Constantini method, has been within a couple of years led to the appointment of 6 indigenous bishops in China. And this is an example that will be enforced strongly from, especially since last year. There was a celebration of the 100 years of the Synod of Shanghai that took place in Rome last May 2024, and the Bishop of Shanghai was invited. He spoke, he addressed, he spoke almost word by word from the Constantini method, which is that the Chinese don't want to change the doctrine. They want the doctrine to respect the local customs, the local culture, and the Chinese Christian traditions, because there are in fact so many. So this is the Constantini method, which is exercised throughout Asia in particular. And let's go to the conclave, which is, I believe, beginning in shortly, in 1 hour or so. There are 100 cardinal electors, 133 cardinal electors. In the Asian team is, for the first time, a very large block. 23 cardinals come from Asia. 20 of these 23 cardinals have been appointed by Francis. 23 countries among the Asian seen have never had a cardinal. I will enumerate among them the Bangladesh, East Timor, Laos, Malaysia, Mongolia, Myanmar, Papua New Guinea, and Singapore. We can also add Iran to the countries that have never had a cardinal, and Pope Francis appointed one. The cardinals are the Pope's missionaries. They play a very important role in the respective country. They move among the different communities. They address the problems of the Catholic community, which happens that in most of these countries they are minorities, and there are situations where when they are being discriminated against. So the cardinal is that figure that is there with a diplomatic passport, and he can address directly, he can talk to the officials, to the government, as well as to the leaders of the other religions, the majority religions. So we also observed that Francis appointed a cardinal from the Dalit community for the first time in India, and a cardinal from Goa, another very important province in India, where the majority of people are of Portuguese background, and there have been many manifestations, discriminatory manifestations from either from the local officials or from the larger Hindu community. As the conclave is about to start, in view of the conclave, the different opinions have been written about who will the next pope be. Should there be a pope from Asia or from Africa? And what I would say in regards to what has been published is that every country will be first looking at one of their cardinals. So the media in the respective country, or let's say in the Anglo-Saxon countries, would point mostly to one of theirs. In the French context, I observed that all the French media has been talking for the past few weeks about the French cardinal from Marseille, Cardinal Aveline. In Argentina, they were talking about maybe another Argentinian pope, which most likely will not happen. So it is not as relevant what the media says, and they have this. They quote each other without really saying so. Necessity. The obvious necessity is probably that an Asian cardinal become a pope. Why? More than 60% of the population lives in Asia. The growth of the Catholic communities in Asia is the fastest, and it's grows, and it is by contrast in Europe. It is in the Catholic faith, and the Catholic demographics are in decline. One cardinal from Asia that I would dare to point to being papabile is the Cardinal of Tokyo, Kikuchi, Cardinal Kikuchi. And why? He is a missionary priest. He spent time literally in the bushes in Ghana and in Congo. He is a by now respected administrator. He's the president of the Asian Bishops' Conference, and more importantly, from the administrative aspect, he was appointed the president of Caritas Internationalis after Cardinal Tagle, Filipino, has demonstrated his incompetence and was removed by Pope Francis from this very, very important administrative role, the Caritas International. So Cardinal Kikuchi, in my view, is that discreet doer. When I interviewed him last year, he told me that he was learning Italian. One of the demands for the position of Pope is the Italian language, because the Curia and all the communication is in Italian. So I don't know if Kikuchi, at the time he was not yet a cardinal even, but he was learning Italian. In this image, I will point to the extraordinary collaboration that I witnessed in Asia, the collaboration first among the bishops. There is an image on the left. And this is an image from the conference of Bishops' Conference in Bangkok in 2022, where all the bishops of Asia and cardinals and then guests, some of their guests from Europe, bishops and cardinals, as well as from Latin America, spent 3 weeks getting to know each other and dissecting an essential document, the 2007 Aparecida Declaration, which was, by the way, written by Pope Francis in 2007. And the Latin American Church adopted the conclusions of the Aparecida Declaration, which are exactly what Pope Francis has been telling us for the past 12 years, that the church has to go to the margins, the church has to go to the periphery and evangelize. The church has the bishop has to take the smell of the sheep and so on. So the relationship between the Asian church and the Latin America is there. There's a huge bond through the Aparecida document. The Aparecida Declaration is less known in the United States. The bishops in the United States are not familiar with the Aparecida Declaration. So I see these two blocks of cardinals, the Asian block, 23 cardinals, and the Latin American block, 21 cardinals, as a natural, making a natural alliance during the conclave. On the right, I am showing an image which I believe is very relevant, because we have on the left a young Vietnamese Jesuit who is a missionary in Japan, where there are over 400,000 Vietnamese, most of them Catholic, working and integrating in the Japanese society. And on the right, we see a man with dark hat. He is a Spanish Jesuit who spent more than 40 years in Japan. and has been every year going to Vietnam to bring medical aid, to organize meetings, and he brings along lay Japanese people, and he's been doing this for more than 40 years every year, beginning with back from 1976, 78, 79, when the conditions for the Catholic Church in Vietnam were very rough. So what we witness happening today in Asia is that there is this communication between generations. The Vietnamese is very prolific in vocations, and in Japan, a wealthy country receives them, and vice versa. From Japan, the Jesuits go to other Asian countries. This the education, the seminaries, the highest Catholic education institutions are in the Philippines. So the Philippines provides the education and the infrastructure, educational infrastructure for the poorer countries, and then the wealthy countries, as Japan or Singapore, provide the necessary financial tools most of the time. This is a unique example. We don't see this integration between the generations, and education and wealth and poverty that come together, that constitute a well-disciplined, planned road map. We don't see this in other continents. I haven't. This is an image that moved me enormously. During Easter week last year in 2024, I went to Beijing. And before I went to Beijing, my editor warned me that you watch out. What are you going to do there? I'm going to visit the church as well. You need permission. You probably have to register. It's not easy. This was the perception of. This is the predominant perception among American Catholics, people in good faith, but they don't know. So I said, I will find out. And I did. And I went through a number of cathedrals during the Easter week. And these are the crowds that I witnessed participating. The churches, the cathedrals were packed all the way to the street. Yes, there was, in order to enter the courtyard of the church, there were metal detectors and a camera filming everyone. But no one turned back. No one resisted or gave up in walking into the church. All these people, young mostly, including children that I witnessed on Easter Sunday, who were baptized, or in the knowledgeable in vis-a-vis China, who were telling me that children are prohibited from going to church in China. Now, this I'll point to the sweater of this man, the white sweater. And why did I think that is interesting to take an image of? Because it is written neighbor, meaning what? In the Bible, we are told love your neighbor. So this is a very clear statement of the comprehension of the basics of the gospel, that these young people are conscious and practice.
Thank you very much. That was a fascinating talk that took us through quite a lot of ground in different countries. You spoke about the relationship that Francis had with the Buddhist community and how he built the relationship with China as well. But could you talk a bit about his relationship and the relationship he built with the Islamic world, and how that has developed and what will have to be done to carry that relationship on?
Right. This is an essential point, an essential aspect of Pope Francis's diplomacy. When he stepped in 2013, the whole Middle East was in flames. There were terrorist attacks, especially against the Christian communities. Churches were blown up, priests and bishops were disappearing and were killed. So this happened in a context of no relationship, no dialogue between the leadership of the Holy See and the leaders of the Sunni and Shia communities in the Muslim world. How did it come about that there was no dialogue? First, there was the invasion of Iraq, which led to the catastrophic events that we have all witnessed. And second, it was during in that same context of war, of religious war, as it was perceived by the Muslim communities, in particular by the radicals, it was aggravated by one statement made by Pope Benedict XVI, a statement that was mostly misunderstood, which offended the Islam faith. And many priests and nuns were assassinated in Muslim countries as a result. In Egypt, there was an enormous outcry, a revolt against everything West, and the Catholic Church was perceived as a Western tool. So this is the environment in which Francis steps in. And one of the first things he did was to repair that relationship. How did he do it? He sent invoice to the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar to apologize and invited the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar to visit him at the Holy See. And after a number of exchanges, and the right people that with credibility in the dialogue with Islam were appointed. I will mention Cardinal Turan, an enormous giant in Vatican diplomacy, who was given the dicastery of the interreligion, and he was credible. He vis-a-vis his Muslim interlocutors, and then this ended with a visit by Pope Francis in Egypt. And which led to the fascinating event that took place in the United Arab Emirates in 2019, where Pope Francis, together with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, signed a declaration which establishes the dialogue and the fraternity between the people from the two religions. And then Pope Francis gave a futuristic mass on a stadium where some 160,000 people participated. That was an enormous event, and it was the beginning, the meaningful reconciliation moment between the two religions. Further, when he went to Indonesia, the element that was emphasized was the dialogue and the relationship between the Vatican, the Catholic community, and the Muslim community in Indonesia, being the largest Muslim country. and the leadership of the Muslim community in Indonesia had the time to understand and to have dialogue with these great figures from the history of interreligion, to understand the authenticity of Pope Francis and this new new diplomats and interlocutors that they now had. For those who followed Pope Francis's visit to Jakarta, there is one moment when Pope Francis goes to the largest mosque in the center of Jakarta, where he, after visiting that mosque, between that mosque and the a large cathedral across the street, there is a tunnel between the mosque and the cathedral, and he went through that tunnel, and that is again an enormous symbol of the communication of this indispensable relationship between the Muslim community, the mosque, and the cathedral. So that was the aim, the reason, the motive, the principal motive for going to Jakarta. In addition, Pope Francis visited a number of other Muslim countries. He went to Egypt, of course. He went to Morocco. He went to Bahrain, to the United Arab Emirates, to Turkey, to Albania. So the relationship with the Muslim would remain in his pontificate. By contrast, Pope Benedict XVI didn't visit any Asian country in his 8 years pontificate.
Yeah, so a big difference in style and approach then between the two. You mentioned earlier about the working with the Chinese, and I wonder if you could talk a bit about how the Holy See's diplomats deal with a state that openly is anti-religion, and not just China but Vietnam and others as well. How do you start that dialogue and try and get compromise when you're dealing with people who are outright against religion?
The Chinese government officially is not anti-religions. It recognizes the Catholic Church by constitution, and it recognizes the Protestant Church as a separate church. So it is not anti-Christian, as it was the case, for instance, in Cuba until 1998, I believe. Yet the Vatican never interrupted the diplomatic relations with the Castro brothers, and the Castro brothers had ambassadors to the Holy See throughout their regime to date. So the dialogue is again, the Pope has this dual dimensions. He is the chief of state and the leader of the religion. So the dialogue is on both levels. The diplomats do their work and talk with their state counterparts, and the bishops, in particular, communicate with their Chinese counterparts. I will give the example of the times when the United States was a partner of the United States government, was a strong partner and participant in building the relationship with between China and the Catholic Church. There were hundreds of Chinese seminarians who were invited and studied in the United States seminaries and given grants by the different archdioceses. For instance, the Archdiocese of New York has been renowned for inviting Chinese seminaries, and these were seminarians from the official church before the 2018 agreement, as well as bishops from the official church that were invited to the United States by the Archbishop Cardinal O'Connor, for instance, of New York. So the relationship was there. There was ambiguous, but it was there and building it. The American archdiocese contributed enormously to the rebuilding, the structure, the infrastructures of churches, of cathedrals in China. We can point to the Archdiocese of Shanghai, where Cardinal O'Connor, in particular, would have second collections throughout the diocese. The churches, the parishes under his jurisdiction in New York, specifically to send money to the Archdiocese of Shanghai. The relationship soured at the time. The United States policies changed towards Beijing, which affected, unfortunately, the work that the Vatican continued to do in China, to the point where after the 2018 agreement, in 2020, as the agreement was supposed to be renewed, the then Secretary of State Pompeo dared to first write a very hostile piece in an American antagonistic paper to the work of the Holy See with Beijing, and then go to ask for an appointment with the Pope to tell him not to renew the agreement. Well, the Pope, of course, didn't receive him, and Cardinal Parolin and Archbishop Gallagher even made some statements that reminded Secretary Pompeo that that's not the way you deal, that the work that the Holy See is doing in China is the business of the Holy See, and should not be brought into the internal affairs, the electoral cycles in the United States.
Yeah. So I've got sort of a joint question now. The first bit is it's almost impossible to predict a conclave and who might come out at the other end. But if it was an Asian pope that came out, what do you think that does to the identity of the church? And sort of tacked onto the end of that, for any pope that comes out of the end, what are the challenges and opportunities that they've got in Asia going forward for the Vatican?
Right. I remember as Pope Francis came back from his Asian trip, within days, he, during one of his addresses in St. Peter's Square, he said, I'm trying to quote him, that the church is bigger than Rome and Europe, that the church is there in Asia. He used the expression of Eurocentric, and Western-centric, that the church has been Eurocentric, Western-centric for so long and that there is still so much to do to remove the church from the Eurocentricity and Western centricity. So the perception in outside the Eurocentric, Western centric couldn't be more positive. The lesson is or would be that the Aparecida Declaration and all the work that Pope Francis has done throughout his 12 years of pontificate has caught up and will not be, cannot be stopped. There is an inertia, the reality, the demographic reality, the economic growth and the decline, respectively, in the West. It is a reality. This is one major difference, again, between the Western secular approach and lens to look at the workings of the Vatican and looking at the workings of the Vatican through this other lens, which is devoid of economic interest, devoid of political and especially military interest. It is all for the common good.
Yeah, which is an unusual thing given the state of the world and how everybody else acts. So we've got time for one more question, and it's a bit of a more light-hearted one. Have you watched the movie Conclave? And if you have, how credible do you think that sort of the way that Conclave is portrayed in the film is in real life?
Yes, I have watched it. It is a good attempt to present the possible conversation and differences between the Curia, the Vatican group, the Italian group, versus what happens out there at the periphery. It's a good attempt. And that's probably what made the film interesting and digestible. Of course, the essence of what happens there during a conclave, it is an imaginary attempt. But it is very popular. People, not only Catholic or Christians, but people all over throughout the political spectrum and the religious identity find it interesting. The question then would be, why is the election of a pope so important and so popular? And we are all talking. We've been talking for weeks now, and even before, because the Catholic, the Pope is the leader of over 20% of the people on the planet and very influential through everything a pope says can affect the interests, the image of a country, of a major power, as we see every day. So the influence of Pope being so enormous, different powers can get very disturbed and become very preoccupied and try to influence. And we see this even now in this during this pre-conclave. We have seen that. If we have time, I will be glad to point to two particular cases.
Yeah,
One,
please do.
One I would be, of course, Cardinal Kikuchi. I have been in a way my opinion of him and his papabile position has been confirmed to me the other day when there was an article that accused him of having neglected to to punish a priest who engaged in sexual abuse in Japan some 20 some years ago. And of course, he was not responsible. He was no longer the leader of that order. Or Cardinal Tagle. There have been very nasty social media statements about him, that he's a gambler, that he likes and sings songs by Beatles songs, dances, and so on. So it demonstrates that there are external forces that are paying very serious attention and can intervene with such maneuvering.
Mm. Well, that's an interesting note to end on, and we'll have to wait and see what happens over the next few days. So all that remains to say is thank you very much for your time and your insights today. It's been a fascinating discussion. And for everyone else, the next event by the Royal Society for Asian Affairs is on Islam, and it's on the ideological contest that's happening in Islam at the moment for the leadership of Islam, and that's with James Dorsey on the 21st of May. So if anybody's interested to attend that, the details are on our website. But again, thank you very much for being here today and for all of your insights. It was a really interesting discussion.
Hey, thank you, Charlie. Thank you.